Welcome to Mind and Movement, getting smart about how you move. I'm Hazel. Thank you for joining me for Coffee and Move 20. So today we're going to drink coffee. How you doing? This is day 16, I think, of the retreat here in New Zealand. I hope you're doing well wherever you are in the world. So I thought today we'd do a bit of a thoracic extension work on the thorax. So many of us have what we call a posterior tilt of our rib cage, so we're thrusting it forward at the bottom of the rib cage, tilting it back at the top of the rib cage, and we're doing that to make our forward head not look so forward. So we are going to do some movements that are going to help us get rid of that forward head, open up the front of our chest, and then strengthen the rhomboid muscles in between our shoulder blades, which when our shoulders come wide, they pull, it magically pulls our spine back up. Super cool exercise of the rhomboid push-up. So let's start by grabbing either a half roller like this or a rolled up towel. I've got a rolled up towel that I've just put duct tape around that works really well for this, or you can use a bolster. This is quite a firm bolster. But the key here is that we are going to keep our ribs on the ground. So we're going to lie down with this half roller underneath my thoracic spine, anywhere where you're in your thoracic spine, which is anywhere there's a rib. But if you start higher, it's easier, so higher towards the head. So you're going to put your hands behind your head and completely let the weight of your head be carried by your hands. And the key here is to keep the ribs down on the ground. So you'll notice that here, you can't get underneath because my rib cage is down. My lumbar spine, there's a small gap there, but in the thoracic region, you can't get underneath. So if the ribs come up here, now I can get my hand underneath. You are now getting this movement from the lumbar spine down here, and we don't want that. We want to get the movement from the thoracic spine because our lumbar spine moves a whole lot more than it needs to because we have a lack of hip extension and a lack of shoulder flexion and the inability to stabilize our rib cage relative to our pelvis. So we want to work on keeping those ribs down and then using our abs here to keep them down, and then just seeing if we can get a little bit of thoracic extension. So you'll see here that the amount of movement I'm getting is not much, right? It's not a huge amount of movement. I could get heaps of movement by doing this, right? But that means that the movement is happening in my lumbar spine, which is not where I want it. I need this movement to be happening in my thoracic vertebra, which is up higher, so I need that to be going just gently backwards over the dome. Nice, eh? I like this one. So the key here, keep using those abs to keep the ribs down. Here's another thing to watch out for. A lot of people, when they go to use their abs to bring their rib cage down, they just tilt their pelvis back. See how I just pushed into my heels and tilted my pelvis back? So that means you are using different muscles rather than your rectus abdominis here, which we want to get used to using these kind of upper parts of the rectus abdominis to stabilize the rib cage. So use those abs, not the tilting of the pelvis, and then come into a little bit more extension. And breathe into that area. It's lovely. It's a workout for here. It's an opening up of here. And it's going to help us to get out of that forward head posture. So the second one we're going to do is called the Windmill. Again, you're going to need some kind of bolster under your head. I'm going to use this one. This time it's a bit softer. So here it is, bolster under my head. I'm lying on my side. My top leg is down here, and I'm reaching up towards the ceiling, then externally rotating my thumb. See how my thumb is going backwards? That means I'm taking also my humerus backwards. We spend a lot of time in an internally rotated position like this, typing and driving, so we want to get out of that position. So my scapula is down my back, I'm externally rotating, and I'm reaching up towards the ceiling, And then I'm rotating and I'm reaching up through my elbow, right? I'm not reaching up through my hand, I'm keeping a micro bend or a bit of a bend in my elbow there, reaching up through the elbow, and then taking this arm back as much as I possibly can that feels comfortable, right? And then I'm going to explore this upper quadrant. I'm going to lie that down because it's in the way of my hand. So just playing this kind of upper part, seeing where you can get your hand. Your arm might be up here, and you might be feeling a big stretch through the chest or in the bicep. That is absolutely fine. Wherever you are is fine. So the reason we do this move is to take the one to get the arm, the humerus, into external rotation, and then stretch the bicep or the pec, the front of the body here. That generally gets pretty tight because we spend so much time on computers driving in that kind of slumped position. We want to take our bodies out of that position. So this is called the windmill. I like this one too. And like here you can, I don't know if you can see now my hand is on the ground after being in here for a couple, we've been, I don't know, in this position for 40, 50, maybe a minute. And yeah, oh, it feels good. Okay, you'll get there. I used to be miles away from the ground. Okay, so we're going to spin around. You don't have to spin around, you just have to go on the other side. So the bolster under my head, this knee is on the ground so that I can just keep track that I'm not like lifting it and rotating. Then this arm's coming up towards the ceiling, reaching up, externally rotating. So the humerus bone is going backwards, and then I'm coming back. In this position too, make sure that you don't do this. Can you see that I just did a big rib thrust? So you want to use your abdominals to keep your rib cage and pelvis in the same alignment. So we call that neutral. I don't have as much rotation through this side when I start. If I do this for about 3 minutes on this side, I can get this down onto the ground. But when I used to start doing this one, my arm was up here. I've made a lot of progress in opening up the front of my chest, which has been great for my breathing. And lots of other stuff actually, the health of my thoracic spine. Actually, my rib cage actually got bigger, which is awesome. Okay. So, we've done a little bit of work to open up the thoracic spine, and we've done a little bit of work to open up the front of our bodies here. Now what we're going to do is a movement called the rhomboid push-up. So we're just going to go basic styles. We're going to put our hands on the ground underneath our shoulders. We're going to put our knees on the ground underneath our hips, and then we're going to do this. So see how I'm kind of pushing. Watch now and see that my elbows aren't moving. So I am moving my scapulars around my rib cage. I'm not bending my elbows. Lots of people, when I first show them this movement, think I'm doing some kind of bend in the elbow, right? I'm not. I'm taking my scapulars around my rib cage. So I'm coming down, and then I'm pushing back up. Lots of people with a lot of neck tension will want to do this with their neck muscles, so drop your neck out. And notice that your neck wants to come back and help. So a couple more parameters here. You want your hands to be as flat on the ground as you can get them. If you can drive a matchbox car under your hand, you want to work on getting that hand flatter on the ground. And the second thing is from the front, watch my elbow pit. So it's really important here that one, we're not hyperextending. So if your elbow is actually going the wrong way, put a bend in it so it's not going the wrong way. But see how I'm taking my elbow pits to face forward. So from the side, if I'm in internal rotation with my humerus, my elbow is pointing towards the camera. But if I externally rotate, now my elbow is facing back this way and my elbow pit is facing forward. That's an exercise in itself. Put your hands on the ground as flat as you can, put a micro bend in your elbows and then externally rotate those humerus bones so that your elbow pit is facing forward. Then if you can do all those things while doing the rhomboid push-up, you're doing awesome. So this, you can see here, when I take my scapulars together, my spine literally falls forward, right? My spine goes towards the ground, and when I take my scapulars wide, it lifts my spine back up. So we want to get those rhomboids nice and strong so that when you're just standing here, you can have your scapulars nice and wide, really broad, nice, wide shoulder scapulars, and a pulled up thoracic spine. Pulled up thoracic spine. So it's not here, it's being pulled up. Magical. Thanks to the rhomboid push-up. And thanks to Katie Bowman for teaching me the rhomboid push-up. She's got lots of amazing resources on her website. You should check out nutritiousmovement.com for more great stuff from Katie. And you can find out more about me and download some of my move notes at mindinmovement.co.nz. Thanks for joining me again. I will see you tomorrow.